It has been a while. I actually was going to start daily vlogging again, and then Luca got sick. It started off with, it was, oh my gosh, Tuesday. Let's see. Yeah, I think Tuesday maybe. Last week we noticed that he had congestion in his just like his nose, like, and it wasn't that bad or anything, it's just like you could hear it sometimes. So I had been using the bulb suction, like he seemed to be okay. And then the next day we had actually taken him to the doctor for reflux issues. He had been projectile vomiting. So on Wednesday we went to the doctor, and I told her, I said, oh, I'm just, he has congestion in his nose too, just since we're here. So she checked him out, and she was like, oh no, he's breathing fine and everything. I think it's just maybe congestion because of the weather. And like I said, he was doing perfectly fine, so I didn't think anything of it. Okay. So that night was a little worse. Like, he started kind of like coughing a little bit, and like when we laid him down he seemed bad, so I just put a blanket underneath the head of his bassinet under the mattress to elevate his head while he was sleeping. So I did that, and he still seemed to struggle, but it wasn't as bad. And then the next day, on Thursday, he seemed a lot worse. He was coughing a lot more. His nose was really bad. You could see that he was struggling to breathe. So he ended up, what are you doing? Sorry. He ended up having pretty bad retractions when he was breathing, and his respiratory rate, so the amount of breaths that he was taking in a minute, was high. So I took a video of him having the retractions. So I'll put that in here now just so everybody can see, so you know what it looks like for your kids and stuff.
Yeah, this is definitely what that is.
So that's what the retractions look like. So I sent that video to my sister-in-law, who is a labor and delivery nurse, and my mother-in-law, who is a nurse as well. And they both pretty much said the same thing. Said, yeah, those are retractions. Yeah, that's his breathing. He needs checked out. So we ended up taking him to Children's Hospital that evening. And when we got there, we checked in, and they got him back into a triage room pretty quickly. And it was pretty busy there. And after they got him in the triage room, they got him back into an extra room to see a doctor. They told us that because his respiratory rate was so high that he got bumped ahead of quite a few people to see a doctor. So when we were in the triage room, they used like the wall suction to suction him out. So then not even 30 minutes later, in the room to see the doctor, they had to suction him out again. And they ended up suctioning him out like 3 or 4 times in that amount of time. And his respiratory rate really never came down. His oxygen level was normal though. During that whole time, his oxygen level was fine. So he was also having trouble eating, just because, babies only breathe out of their nose. So when he's trying to eat, he can't breathe. And he was just getting exhausted from it. So then, actually, because of his oxygen level being good, I guess, I don't know, the resident doctor was trying to say, oh, well, I think he'd go home and you guys could just keep suctioning him there. We'll see. So, I told her, like, we live like 40 minutes away from here. I'm just nervous about him going. You guys, they said he had bronchiolitis, and they said that it peaks between day 3 and 5. So he had not reached the peak yet. And I said, if he's going to get worse, he does not need to be home. I don't know. So she left, and she talked to the other doctors, and she came back and she said, well, she's like, it's up to you. We can either send you home, if you are okay with that, or you can stay overnight for observation. So she ended up leaving the room to give me and Nick time to talk, and we just decided that it was not safe to go home. So I stayed there with Luca. And Nick went home because my mom and dad had the kids, and they both had to work the next day. So Nick had to go home and be with them. So it actually seemed to be okay. He wasn't, I mean, he was sick, obviously, but he got into his room and it was okay. The doctor actually came in there and looked at him and said, "Oh, he looks okay. I don't know if you'll be seeing me a lot tonight, because he doesn't seem to be doing too bad, but we'll definitely keep an eye on him and make sure it doesn't get worse." Well, not that long after that, he had a drop in his oxygen level. It was dropping to like 85%. He was really gasping for air. They came in there, they were suctioning him out like every 10 minutes. There was like 2 nurses in there, multiple doctors, a respiratory therapist. They were all in there trying to do what they needed to do. It was really scary. I don't know how people can like NICU moms and like people with sick kids, because it was the most terrifying thing to sit back there and know that your kid cannot breathe. Oh, okay. And to know that there is nothing you can do. It's bronchiolitis is a viral. I mean, it's a virus, so there's no medicine they can give. I knew that I was right in having him at the hospital. I knew I was right going there. I knew I was right advocating for him to stay there, because if we would have been home during that, it would have been bad. But I just had to sit back while they held him down and suctioned him, and while they came in there and they had to put the oxygen on him and start that. So after that, he finally started settling down a little bit. So that it was a pretty bad like night, early morning situation. Then on Friday, Friday, I guess, yeah, he was getting better, but he was still on oxygen. They were able to wean it down some, but he was starting to show signs of dehydration, so they had to put an IV in. I did not stay in the room during the IV. They said if you want to go get food, this is a good time for that. They were like, you can stay there, like we're just saying if you want to get food, it's a good time. So I actually was going to stay because they were getting ready to do it, like the needle was getting ready to go in, so I stood there. But then it went in and you could like see the vein blow. So at that point I knew that like I was just too, like over the night I had been crying because like I had to just stand back while they were doing all that with him. So I just knew that it would be a better situation if I just left the room and like my anxious vibes were not in there. So I came back and his IV was in. They said he did good. And when I came back, he was sleeping. So it was literally like within like a 15-minute period. I was gone, came back in, he was back sleeping. So they started the fluids. So he was actually, I'm trying to think, he was on fluids, I don't know, maybe not even, I don't even think 24 hours. So then the oxygen was what was really making us the oxygen, and he had to be able to go home without getting the wall suction. So the oxygen, they tried a few times to take it off, and he just seemed like he was tolerating it, and then would jump underneath 90%. Then they finally just gave him like a really low flow of it, just kind of like weaning him down off of it instead of just taking it. So then he finally started getting better with that. And then on Friday, Nick came there to stay all night with us as well. He was coughing a lot, but he seemed to be doing okay throughout the night. I mean, I didn't sleep much. I had to get up and feed him like every 2 hours, but he was doing okay, and then I woke up and it was like 6 o'clock and I was feeding him, and the nurse came in. He was still wearing the cannula, the oxygen cannula, but the nurse came in and said, yeah, he's been off oxygen since 4 this morning. She's like, and has been doing well, hasn't really like went down, he's been doing fine, but he was still getting the wall suction. So when the team came in, they were saying that as long as the wall suctioning could stop, that he would be able to go home that afternoon. So he started looking a lot better, and we ended up going home that afternoon. He's doing a lot better now. You can still hear his breathing, but he isn't really, he's retracting, but it's not as bad. His respiratory rate is way lower than it was. It had gotten up to like 85, which is super, super high. So yeah, that's why I have not been vlogging. I was gonna start vlogging because everything was going okay, and then this happened, and it was absolutely terrifying, and now I haven't been sleeping at night because I'm terrified that he is just going to stop breathing or something. So that's why I look awful. My eyes are swollen. I'm just super terrified. I'm super scared. But I know people watch this, so thanks everybody who was praying for him and was thinking of him as we were in the hospital. I thoroughly believe that because he had so many people praying for him, that is what happened, because it was bad and he just all was like, I do believe that helped. So thank you everybody for that, and I can hopefully start vlogging now, and hopefully everything gets back to normal. That's how he sounds. So hopefully everything gets back to normal now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Hope you liked the video.